Normally we watch our numbers go up so we can get a sense of when to properly start as people join us online. So I'm just giving a chance to folks to join us in the webinar before we officially get started. Our numbers didn't bounce too much. Well, I think we might have leveled off at 9. So just want to welcome folks to our open house tonight for the Bachelor of Social Work program at Laurier Brantford. Just a couple things before we get started. I'm going to move us through tonight's webinar and our time together. My name is Dr. Jennifer Root. I'm an associate professor in the Bachelor of Social Work program and currently serving as the interim associate dean. And before I introduce the amazing folks who have joined us tonight for this panel, I just want to offer folks the opportunity to get situated with us. So we're going to have an opportunity for questions at the end. If folks would like to, pose some more questions as we move through the presentation, you are also welcome to do so. We have a question and answer feature. We have a chat feature. You'll see Melissa saying hello to you there in the chat. If it seems helpful to answer questions on the fly, we'll do that if it's related to sort of the material we're at in the moment. Otherwise, like I said, you're welcome to hold some questions to the end and we can spend some time together moving through questions from our participants. So I'd like to introduce the folks who are here tonight with us. We're going to spend some time sharing a little bit of general information about our program, things you're probably looking to know as you think about applying to our program and what it might look like to join our program. And the majority of the time, we're just going to spend in conversation with one another. We have faculty and staff and students with us tonight. And we just find it's more engaging and sort of interesting presentation to sort of hear directly from people about both their experience in the program, but also their experience as social workers, both seasoned social workers, new social workers, and from a student perspective as well. So why don't we get into saying hi to everybody? Beatrice, if you could move us along. These are the folks joining us tonight. We'll start on the left here with Megan MacDonald. She's a current student in our program. Thank you to Megan for joining us tonight. We'll be hearing from her from a student perspective. We also have Beatrice Leia here with us. She is our coordinator of our field education and field placement opportunities. That's myself in the middle there. Beside me, Dr. Cameron McKenzie, an assistant professor in our program, who'll be speaking with us tonight about his experiences, both teaching in the program and sort of what he loves about the social work profession in general. And of course, Melissa Weaver, our academic program administrator for the Bachelor of Social Work program. Melissa will be hopefully giving us some idea about the kind of things you can connect with her around and the kind of supports she can offer as, again, the APA in our program. Next slide. So I want to start off with just some general information about the kind of questions we tend to get about our program, in addition to the kind of things that set us apart as a BSW program. One of the things you might have heard about us, and one of the things that tends to be attractive about our program, is that we are considered a direct entry program. And so what that means is if you are made an offer of admission to our program and you accept that offer, that you start your coursework with us from your first semester through to your graduation date. There's no requirement to interview into our program or to reapply into our program, perhaps at a different year of your degree. There are comparable programs out there where they don't necessarily start you in year 1 in your social work program, but you reapply, for example, maybe in year 2 or 3. That's not the case with us. Our progression is driven by GPA only. And so that means that if each year you're meeting your GPA requirements, you're hitting our grade benchmarks, that will move you along into year 2, year 3, and then into your 4th year, and hopefully right up till graduation. So important to keep in mind about our program, we're direct entry. Next slide. Another feature of our program, and I think this is important for lots of folks, especially for those of you who are joining us as social service workers, that licensing and registration is part of being an accredited program. So a degree from our program will allow you to become registered as a registered social worker through the Ontario College. For child and youth workers, the same is true. So if you're coming to us from a child and youth pathway, once you graduate with your BSW degree, you're eligible to be registered and licensed as a registered social worker in Ontario. Next slide. Another feature of our degree, while you are completing your major as a social worker doing the Bachelor of Social Work program, you're also eligible to complete a minor. And what that means is you can use your elective opportunities or other sort of credits to form a minor. And that minor could be in a discipline like psychology, criminology. Oh, well, that will forever live on the recording of the fall open house. My dog. This is the beauty of remote learning and sort of these virtual open houses. You never know what will happen. But I have a chocolate lab and she's always on guard for leaves, plastic bags, any potential sign of delivery personnel. So clearly she's been alerted to something. And like I said, I'm happy that now that will live on our recording forever. But to get back to what I was talking about, minor opportunities, you do have some room to complete a minor along with your major in our program. And along with that, folks who are interested in international learning opportunities. So if you are someone who might want to pursue coursework outside of Canada, we do have relationships with schools in Norway, Ghana, Australia, different places that you can complete some of your degree outside of Canada. Next slide. These next few sets of slides are, you don't feel the need to sort of scour these or memorize them by any means. They're just to sort of give you a sense of the kind of transfer credits you can expect coming into our program as a diploma holder, as a social service worker or a child and youth worker, that these are the kinds of things that we give you equivalency for in our program. And this kind of information is available through academic advising, or you can reach out to us for this kind of detailed explanation of your transfer credit. Just wanted to, again, put it out here to remind you that you do receive some credit for your diploma work. And Beatrice, if you could move along, what that actually looks like in terms of your particular pathway. So if you're someone who's coming to us from a child and youth care program, we do have a pathway set up for you wherein your credits, your transfer credits are accounted for, and that essentially moves you into year 2 of our program. So from year 2, you're able to move through in approximately 3 years to complete a BSW degree. And Beatrice, the next slide. The same is true for pathway. So again, if you're someone who holds a social service worker diploma, with your transfer credits, you're able to enter into our program in year 2, essentially moving through on a 3-year pathway to graduation. And another reason we include these slides is just to give you a quick sense of the kinds of material that are included in our degree program topically, in terms of looking at things like we have 2 research methods courses. We have a lot of practice courses, which I'm sure folks would be familiar with, practice with groups, practice with individuals, in addition to the elective credits that are included in the degree. So you have an opportunity to study in other liberal arts sort of disciplines. We have an Indigenous Studies program at Laurier Brantford, criminology, psychology, youth and children, lots of different disciplines to complement your BSW degree. Now, I don't want to get excited and predict that Cameron's next, but I feel like Cameron might be next. Correct. So this gets to be the fun part of our presentation. Like I said, we thought it's most engaging when we get to hear from the faculty and staff and students who are part of our program. Dr. Cameron McKenzie is an assistant professor teaching in our program. And I'm so thrilled you're here with us again, Cameron. I think we had a great time the last time we did one of these presentations together, because I was able to sort of learn new things about, the kind of work Cameron does, not only in the classroom, but the kind of things he's done as a social worker. But maybe it makes sense to start, Cameron, with the kind of things you teach. What are some of the courses that you teach in our program, and maybe why you like to teach them? What gets you excited about the courses you teach?
All right. So in terms of the courses I generally teach, so one of them you won't be taking, but I will have you in second year. So I teach the first year Introduction to Social Welfare, which gives folks a foundation of various different communities that social workers are working with, such as working with the LGBTQ plus community, working with Indigenous, and looking at how do policies address in terms of working or against those different communities, and what does social work have to do with it. For second year, I really love social policy, which speaks to a lot of the research that I do. So one of the courses I teach is a social policy course, which gives students a strong foundation in terms of having a critical analysis of the various different policies that you're going to be affected as a social worker, or how our clients also in communities that we'll be working with are affected. So really examining ODSP. How does ODSP work? What are the pitfalls to the Ontario Disability Support Program? Also looking at nonprofits. A lot of social workers work in the nonprofit field, so having a look at the funding criteria that nonprofits are faced with, and looking at social workers' role in advocacy within social policy. One course I'm really excited that I've just finished developing is a disability course, which is an elective course that you're able to take in fourth year. And it's looking at, again, disability and social work, providing a critical analysis. So I'm quite excited about teaching that this winter. And another course that I've taught in the past is human sexuality. So looking at kind of human sexuality within social work and with different communities. So sexuality and aging, the LGBTQ community, disability, just to name a few. So those are a few of the courses that I've taught, and again, look forward to teaching in the future as well. So excited that maybe some of you might be interested in those issues, and hopefully I'll have you next year.
I think a lot of our students are excited about your disability course, Cameron, if I recall correctly. I think it's full to capacity, yes?
That's right, yeah.
I don't think there's a spare seat, which is always a great sign. Like you said, that is something that's sort of needed and our students are looking forward to in terms of opportunities to learn.
Mhm.
I wonder, Cameron, if you might speak to, like, I know you and I know from teaching in the classroom, we have our students who come in straight from high school, and then we have students who come in through these college pathways. So we have an entire cohort dedicated to students with a social service worker diploma or a college and youth diploma. And I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on sort of either your experience working with the advanced standing students or their experiences in our classroom, and sort of what maybe they can expect being part of our program.
Oh, for sure. Well, I always get excited when I have advanced standing students in my classroom, and I think back to myself. So, for example, I did an SSW diploma before I went into my Bachelor's of Social Work, and I find students who have the advanced standing, either a CYW or an SSW, are always very well situated, and sometimes are ahead of other students, having already the skills that they brought from those college programs into the BSW program. So they're always really well situated in terms of being prepared for university courses, and to do very well as they kind of progress through the program. So I always get excited having advanced standing advanced standing students in my classroom, and I feel like there's a lot to offer, especially that experience. Maybe those folks have worked in the field for a bit, as a social worker or a social service worker, sorry, and bringing that rich experiences to the classroom is always worthwhile for everyone to learn from. So not just, again, fellow students, but also as a professor.
I feel the same way. And even though we tend to keep our cohorts separate, we tend to move our high school students through as one cohort and our advanced standing students through together as another cohort. There are times for certain reasons where they do mix up in our courses, where there's sometimes, a few high school students in a advanced standing cohort or vice versa. And I always find the advanced standing students offer, they have, like you said, so much experience to offer. They can sometimes provide a bit of a mentorship role to our high school stream students, which I find is always nice when that works out, when you can really tell that the high school stream is benefiting from some of that sort of trial and error that our advanced standing students have already been through in terms of their learning and in terms of already being out in the field. So I really do think that's a unique feature.
Very much so.
I think one of my other questions, Cameron, and I tend to ask this more so when we're speaking with our high school students who still don't really often have a sense of what social work is or what does the field even look like. So we often spend a lot of time talking about and providing examples of social work practice and what we've done. But I wonder too, if you might just want to share some of your experiences, both as a social service, an SSW diploma holder, and a BSW degree holder, what that looked like in the field, how that sort of shaped your social work practice outside of academia.
No, for sure. And one thing I love about social work is just how broad it is. And there's so many different avenues that one can work in. It's not just this little narrow path. And sometimes when you look at the SSW, if we're talking about, I guess, how opportunities for students, having that additional BSW provides more opportunities. So I can, think back with an SSW. One of the reasons I went with the BSW is just, again, different employment opportunities where folks sometimes want to see those additional accreditations that people bring to the field and bring with their educational experience. But again, the reason, oh, sorry, Jen.
No.
But again, I just think what's so exciting about social work, and again, that passion, I think a lot of folks who already have that SSW know, CYW, is the idea of making a change. And there's just so many ways we can do that. So yes, right now I'm doing academia, but in the past, I a private practice, working within specific communities that I feel, I like to play an impact towards them. So specifically, generally LGBTQ or folks with disabilities, trying to help with either accommodations or understanding their diagnosis, or ways we can advocate for change. So I think sometimes what's exciting is that consciousness raising that social workers can bring to communities where they can have those own strengths to, again, advocate for themselves.
Thanks, Cameron. I think they said that was going to be my final question, but this will be my real final question. I've been trying to ask folks is, it's to make a pitch. What's your favorite part of our BSW program here at Laurier Brantford, or what do you sort of love most about the work we're doing here?
Yeah, well, I just love how it's a close-knit campus. So we have really small classes. Students get to know their professors, get to know their students, and being right downtown Brantford, I love that. So again, being able to be involved with the city in itself, being involved with volunteer opportunities. There's just so much one can do. And when you think about it, and I know folks here, it's not going to be 4 years. We're talking probably much less than that within their undergrad degree. Is that time flies. That I really encourage folks to get involved either with clubs in society or even starting your own club with the BSW Students Association. We really work closely within the student groups. As a faculty member, we really want to see students thrive on campus, and I think Laurier offers a great opportunity within the BSW program and different ways you can get involved, throughout not just social work, but if it's either with research or again, like I said, starting a club, that really check that out and get a feel for the campus. And one thing again I like is just how small it is. You get to know your profs, get to know the students, and able to contribute and see yourself grow your time here.
Thanks, Cameron. I really appreciate that. And you actually reminded me, one of my other favorite things about our advanced standing cohort is I find those folks are not afraid to come up and get to know us a little bit. And I don't know if that just comes again with familiarity of the education system. They've had, post-secondary instructors before. They realize we're just regular folks. But I really do like being able to connect with our students. And I do find that is really unique to our program, that we really are, student-centered and small, and we all get to know one another quite well. Thanks. I really appreciate that you had to share, and it gave me some good ideas for questions to ask Beatrice, who's up next. Thanks, Cameron. Well, Beatrice, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So like I mentioned, Beatrice is our field practicum coordinator. And as students admitted through our college pathway, it's pretty typical, unless I'm wrong, Beatrice, that students will complete at least one field practicum with us. Is that right?
Yes. So yeah, depending on the pathway and depending on the transfer credit situation, students will complete at least one placement, sometimes two.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe it makes sense then, like I said, these folks, given they've done an SSW and a CY I don't know that folks are coming in with both, a CYW diploma, have probably had experience doing a field placement before, but maybe you could speak to some of the opportunities or different kinds of placements we might have available through the Bachelor of Social Work program.
Yeah. So our placements are social work focused. And so they will be similar to the placements that students have perhaps had before, but definitely more of a social work setting. So we have hospital placements, school board placements, placements with Children's Aid, community organizations. But one of the advantages is often you get to work alongside a social worker. So you really get a sense of the day in and day out work in social work, whether it be direct practice or whether it be more behind the scenes in a community agency doing advocacy or policy work or research or program evaluation or program planning. There's really a variety of opportunities. And yeah.
Beatrice. And I think too, like you mentioned, with folks who have perhaps had the experience or opportunity to have already completed a field placement, that we really talk about in our program, that it's important to continue doing field placement opportunity, because this is also a time when you're being reintroduced to social work skills, moving towards mastery in terms of, social work practice and getting ready to go out in terms of being licensed as a social worker. So the importance of doing a field placement with us is important to completing the BSW degree.
Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead, Beatrice. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think also as advanced standing students, you come in really with an advantage because you've already had a chance to work in the field and you bring a lot of skills. And I think that can make the placement experience even more rich because our placement opportunities have a matching process. So our instructors are very interested in knowing what you want to learn. So, what we always say is no placement is the same. It depends on the student because it's about the relationship. The thing that you're going to remember most about your placement, or one of the top things that students tell us, is the relationship that you have with your field instructor. And so, in a lot of ways, your placement is what you make it. So you could be somebody that has lots of experience in a particular setting, or you might decide, you know what, this is my chance to break out of what I've always been doing and try something completely different. And that really makes for a very rich experience because we really do encourage students to get out of their comfort zone and try something new.
I think you're so right, Beatrice, in that. From my own experience, I remember during my BSW, I was quite sour about not receiving one of my top choices. And the placement I went out to ended up being probably one of my more formative placements. And the relationship I had with my supervisor, I really believe was what allowed me to get into graduate school. Her training, the way she and I worked together, how she trained me, her letter of support for my application. So what ended up being something I thought I was very unhappy with ended up being probably one of the best of my 3 field placements in my undergraduate and graduate work. So I think your point about branch out if that feels good, but even if you feel like you've, maybe gone into something you're not quite so sure about, there's still a possibility it could end up being really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely good to be open to new experiences, be open to working with different populations and different types of agencies. It's really a chance for you to let your skills grow. Absolutely.
What about you, Beatrice? What was your favorite role as a social worker when you were out working in the field?
It's interesting. I've worked in some different areas. Like I've worked with child and youth. I've worked in homelessness. I've done counseling. I think probably my favorite role was when I worked in a women's shelter. And I think it was just because it was my first job in social services or social work. And it was kind of like my aha moment where everything I did before that brought me to that moment. And I just felt really passionate about it. And so I've really enjoyed my career in social work. Since then, I'm a social worker myself, and I've done 3 placements. So I know what it's like to go through different placements. I did 2 in my undergrad in social work, and I did 1 when I did my master's in social work. So I can really appreciate students in that process. And in the field department, we definitely work with students one-to-one to make sure that they are happy and they get a lot of their placement.
See, that's what's cool about these things. I didn't realize that was your first social work position, and that my first social work position, right, fresh out of my BSW, was at a women's shelter. That was my first job, I guess, paying full-time job, and it stuck with me ever since. I've never left that field. I've been working in the violence against women field since. So, like you said, you never know what's out there.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I started out doing a Bachelor of Arts degree in Women's Studies. And then I realized that, boy, I've just been doing social work
Yeah.
my whole life. So I might as well get a degree in it.
Might as well get licensed. I love it. Thanks, Beatrice. Is there anything I'm missing that we should be letting folks know about in terms of field?
I think just in terms, maybe just a little bit about our process might be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that we provide the field placements. I know schools have different ways of doing it, but it's not something that students have to search for. We have a great relationship with the Brantford community and the surrounding areas. So we have placements in every area, whether it's direct practice or policy, behind the scenes kind of work. And you can also do a proposal. So particularly more of our seasoned students, like yourselves, the advanced standing students, you might know somebody that works in an area that is very of interest to you. So you can actually propose that. And then we'll work with the agency to see if we can organize that placement for you. So we're very flexible as well. And then we also do an interview to match you to an opportunity to make sure that what you're seeking matches with the opportunity that you get placed in.
A good point, Beatrice. I'm glad you brought that up. I think it is important to know that we spend a lot of time finding placements in the matching process that you go through to make sure that students are getting, a high quality placement that they're interested in, will be supported in. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Thanks,
Jen.
Of course. Thank you. Well, that brings us to our most exciting candidate for the night. Megan is a student who's joined us this evening to share some of her experiences being in the BSW program. I just wanted Megan to give you a chance to maybe say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're at in the program. I noticed here with your photo, you mentioned that you're doing a double minor, it looks like. So maybe, you just want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
For sure. Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, my name is Megan MacDonald. I am a second year student in the Bachelor of Social Work program, coming straight from high school, but I do think that it is an amazing opportunity to come from a previous spot in college. I know a lot of people there's a few people in a lot of my classes that have social service worker background, and they are super helpful, and they do give a lot of insight in classes, and they can kind of connect different theories and things that we go over in class. So they are super helpful. You'll definitely be loved in every class. So yes, I am minoring in Indigenous Studies and Youth and Children's Studies. Personally, that's how I wanted to design my degree. As previously mentioned, there are so many different minors and options that you can do. There's leadership and psychology, criminology. There's so many different things, so you can personalize your degree. There are some elective opportunities. So this is where you can get your credits for different minors. So definitely look into that. You do not have to claim your minor, your first year here. You can do it kind of in your last year, as long as you have the required courses. So that's a super great thing to kind of look into and be prepared for. And there are a lot of different clubs and associations that you can get a part of here on campus. So I'm just going to touch on a few of them. I am a campus ambassador with the hiring and recruitment here at Laurier. So I speak on different panels like this. I also give tours of the campus. So if you book an in-person tour, you could have me as your ambassador. There's also a bunch of other ladies and gentlemen that give tours as well. So that's a great opportunity there. We also have different online platforms that are great and that are run by ambassadors. I'm also part of the Bachelor of Social Work Students Association, which you can also become a part of as a general member or in an executive position. In my first year, I was a general member, and now I have moved up to the finance executive on the association. But there's plenty of other opportunities to get involved there. And that is a really great association. I love the Bachelor of Social Work Students Association. We do tons of different workshops and events throughout the year to get you familiar with other social work students in other years, and like older and younger than you. It's a really great volunteer opportunity if you want to become an executive member. We also did different giveaways and contests this year already, and we have so many awesome things planned. We also plan for a gala at the end of the year, which is super fun. So there's lots of different things that you can get involved with on campus. And I think that's all I have to say. Did you have any questions for me, Jen?
One of my questions is any advice you have or suggestions for a student coming into their first year of the program, thinking about a college student entering their first sort of university degree. Any advice for a new student?
Yeah, for sure. So for some of you, you might be coming from maybe a smaller town or possibly even from a bigger city. I'm from a really small town. So Brantford was a huge change to me. And I'm sure if you have been in college, like moving away from home and things isn't super different for you maybe, but it was for me. But I don't want you guys to feel nervous or worried or anything like that. We are integrated into the downtown core of Brantford, which I personally love. There's so much more experience that you can get out of living here than compared to just living and walking with university students at a regular campus, like even our Waterloo campus. So it's a super great opportunity, and definitely I would not be too worried as for like course load, as Cameron McKenzie said earlier. It's fairly light in terms of they're not super, at least for me, they're not super heavy papers or anything like that. And I found that a lot of my classes have like realistic papers. You're not writing or doing projects for something you're never going to use like you did in high school maybe. Everything is like exactly what you're going to need for the field. So there's nothing that you're going to think this is stupid. Why am I doing this? You won't ever feel that. So I also don't want anybody to be nervous about that. And also the professors, different faculty and staff, they're all here to support you. And here at Brantford, we are such a small school, and I would consider we only have about 3,000 students across our campus. So you're not just a number. Professors and faculty and staff will get to know you by your name. You do not have to worry about, not knowing where you're going, not knowing your professor, not being able to get help because there are so many people that are here to help you and want to see you succeed.
That's really validating and nice to hear that you're feeling like your coursework is manageable and you've been able to really get connected to the community here. Yeah. Thank you so much. Anything you feel like we're forgetting or would be helpful to add in terms of students thinking about our program?
I don't think there's anything additional right now that I can think of. I think I touched on a lot of it that is really important. And also with the transfer credits and things, that's also super great. Yeah, I think we touched on it all.
You did beautiful. Thank you. And I would be remiss if we didn't back up and hear from Melissa. Yes, of course, we need to hear from Melissa before we sign off. She may have secretly been hoping that maybe I just sort of skipped over her.
I absolutely was.
But I think it's important for folks to know, especially for folks who are thinking about applying to our program, that you will at some point have contact with Melissa. Melissa is very student facing, very much engaged with our students when you have questions about what courses to take, the things that you need to register for. So I think it's important for folks to hear from Melissa. So maybe Melissa, you just want to say hi and tell us a little bit about kind of what you do in your role and what students can come to you for in terms of support.
Sure. Thanks, Jen.
No problem.
So hi everyone, my name is Melissa. I'm the Academic Program Administrator. My role is essentially to help students integrate and to support you through your 3 or 4 years within the BSW program. I support you in everything from registration to referrals to on-campus services to connections to academic advising if we need to make you a reduced course load plan, or if you think about doing an international experience. I also work one-on-one with students to sort that out. If there are questions about your professors or concerns you have, you would also come to me. I work very closely with Dr. Root, our really great associate dean. So we just kind of tackle any student issues together. But really, I'm just a resource for you. Any questions you have, even if they're not directly related to your academics, I'm more than happy to help and to help find solutions and answers for you.
Thanks, Melissa. That was perfect. And like I mentioned in our previous presentation together, I remember you are an alum of the Laurier Brantford program, that you are a graduate, not of social work, but of another program. You completed your English degree, and just wanted to give you a chance to speak on what you love most about Laurier Brantford.
Yeah, so I think Megan really touched on it as well, is that the Brantford campus is a tight-knit community. You're not just a number, you don't really get lost on the campus. You make connections very easily. There are staff members who know your name and continue to know your name. As a staff member, I'm now working with folks that were helping me through my undergrad, which is a little surreal, but it's also so cool to see how our paths intersect again. And I think that's what's so great about the Brantford community, is that we are very tight-knit. We are very volunteer-based. Getting involved is a big topic on campus. Everyone wants you to be in as many things as you can, because we really believe that it rounds out your entire experience to have all of this exposure. Not only just to other students and other programs, maybe you find out about a really cool course someone's taking and that leads to a minor or a master's. It's really just a really great campus, and also being in social work and being so integrated to the downtown, I think that is a huge benefit as well. You feel like you're more than just part of a university community, but you're also part of the city of Brantford.
That's such a good point, Melissa, and a good one to end on, that our program itself is not only tight-knit, but we really are integrated into the broader Brantford community, which is nice. I think we're both recognized as part of the community, and we contribute a lot to the community. So that's important, especially for a social work program. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks, Jen.
I think we've reached the end of our sort of official interview with our panelists. So I'll say thank you very much to Cameron and Melissa and Beatrice and Megan. Want to provide now folks an opportunity to ask us some questions. I can see the chat's been utilized well in terms of asking different questions. We're happy to take some time to hear from other folks. If you want to put a written question in the Q&A or in the chat, we're happy to spend some time responding to those. I know it can take a few minutes to formulate your question, but I'm not going to abandon our group. We will agree by consensus when we feel it's time to sign off, when there are no further questions. I can see Melissa.
I do have a question in the chat, Jen.
Yeah.
Is an advanced certification necessary beyond the BSW to practice in a counseling role?
An advanced certification. To do counseling as a private practitioner, you might require some additional advanced certification. You can practice as a registered social worker with a BSW. I almost want to ask Cameron and Beatrice too, their thoughts on advanced certifications. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Beatrice.
I can weigh in on that. So I think your social work degree is one way to get into counseling for sure. Many counseling positions ask that you are registered with the Ontario College of Social Work. And so when you complete our degree, you can gain access to that. But I think that counseling positions are very different depending on the setting. So I would encourage students to sort of look into what type of counseling, what type of, what agency. Some students come into the program already providing counseling at different community agencies. So it really depends.
It's a good point, Beatrice. I'm also wondering too about connecting with our provincial professional association, OASW. I wonder if they might have some guidance around, you know, best practices and different kinds of licensure and credentials you can have if you're interested in doing counseling. You could be registered as a psychotherapist. I'm not actually sure if that requires an MSW or if you could practice with a BSW alone. But these are the kind of questions not only like we could obviously look into, but again, you might want to check in with our professional association, OASW, along with our registering college, the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers. Those would be your best, most accurate sources for information about the kind of credentials you would need to do counseling. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
We have another question, Jen, and I don't know if you want to speak directly to this or maybe hand it off to someone else.
Sure.
They're just asking about the return to campus plan at Laurier. They're asking specifically about fall 2022, but we can speak to next term as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think generally speaking, so given that we're planning to be on campus in winter 2022, so we are planning a full return to in-person on-campus teaching and activities, that the theory would hold that will stay the same for fall 2022. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. If something were to change drastically in the world in terms of how the pandemic is unfolding or how we're recovering, perhaps that would change. But as of right now, we are planning a full return to on campus for winter 2022. Does that answer the question, you think? Well enough?
Yeah, I think that was a good answer, Jen.
Yeah. Just scanning to see if there's any other questions folks have. And these are great questions. Thanks, folks, for posing these. Anything else coming through Q&A or chat, Melissa?
No, not any additional questions.
Well, as just to give just a few more seconds, just in case folks are formulating their questions, just wanted to draw folks' attention to the contact information here, that there's lots of different ways you can be in touch with questions related to admissions, enrollment, schedules, that kind of stuff. If you're interested in connecting with any of us more directly, you can of course be in touch with Melissa or myself, and we're happy to answer questions as they come to you, or things you think of after the webinar. We're happy to stay in touch with folks, so just let us know if that would be helpful. Melissa's, I just see, posted our general email in the chat for folks, if that's helpful. And well, let's have a consensus, folks. Do you feel like folks have maybe exhausted all of their questions for today and we're okay to maybe sign off? For the benefit of the folks who are sticking with us, I left our last virtual open house a tad too early and left folks hanging with questions. Here's another question that's come in. So if I'm reading this question correctly, and anyone who's sort of reading along can feel free to jump in. The question's about, will we be able to provide online options? Not if the university policy remains in place. So we currently have a university policy that requires all students enrolled at Laurier to be vaccinated or to have a recognized exemption. So if those things aren't in place, as of right now, we have not been creating alternate opportunities for people to enroll, be it an online course or other sort of accommodations. So if that policy were to remain in effect in the long term, no, our BSW program is not creating different pathways to completion other than on-campus enrollment. Thanks. So Melissa just reiterated that we're a fully on-campus program in the bachelor's program. We don't have online courses. We don't offer in general remote learning other than obviously during the pandemic, but our program is strictly on campus under normal circumstances. Yeah, and again, that is something to pay or to turn your mind to over time. We don't know how long that the vaccination policy will remain in effect. So it's something to definitely keep an eye on moving forward. Great question, though. Any other questions that we can answer for folks, or if you want to signal that you're putting a question together, just let us know. Anything from the panelists before we get ready to say goodbye that you feel might be helpful, that we maybe missed, or you just want to comment on? No pressure. Well, what did we think, panel? Thumbs up for if we feel like we can close off, that we don't have any other questions coming forward? Yeah, everybody's in? Okay. Well, I'll officially say goodbye then, and thank you again to the panelists, and thank you to the folks who joined us for the webinar. We're thrilled that you came, and we hope that we provided you with some information and sort of a sense of what you can expect from us in our program. And I look forward hoping to cross paths soon. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.